Hi everybody, thank you for joining in. In this video we have a Vulcain. This is the first Vulcain that I will have worked on. Vulcain watches may not be a household name, but in the watch enthusiast circles it definitely has some recognition, some cachet. The company was founded in 1858 and is well known for its wristwatch alarms. Some of you might already know this, but Vulcain refers to the god of fire. So I'm going to go ahead and get these hands set, get them ready to remove, and we'll open this up and see what we have inside. This is an automatic movement, and it's not running very well. It's running extremely fast. And we can see pretty clearly, we don't need a time grapher here to tell that that's not running very well. On the wrist today is this electric Timex. Those signature reversing wheels might give you a clue that this is an ETA 2452. I'm going to start with removing the framework for the automatic winding. Gently. I hate to say pry, just want to break tension. If you have to pry, there's probably something wrong. And the balance just barely beating back and forth. A really bad running watch tends to run faster in my experience rather than slower. You'll even often see the regulator moved all the way over to the slow side as people try to compensate. It was a little sticky getting out, and I'm not seeing anything obviously wrong with the balance, but I wanted the pallet fork. Maybe a little sticky, but it's not terrible. It's a massive piece of dust there. It's actually running so fast I have to reset these hands again. We'll loosen our stem release screw. From what I can tell, this movement first started appearing in 1956. Just enough. Flip this over and give it a gentle tap here to see if we can get it to... There we go. Now I'll grab a little bit of plastic to put over the dial to remove our hands. I'm using a cannon pinion puller. I'll go back and forth between that tool and the levers. There's a movement ring here held on by these case clamps, so we'll loosen those screws and see if we can get that off. Now we'll loosen the dial feed screws. And we'll get this dial in the hands tucked away. And we'll go ahead and remove the hour wheel and we'll get into our calendar works. This little cover here also, I guess, interacts with this, I guess it's kind of an intermediate wheel for the date. And it has two wheels on one sort of axle, and it kind of sandwiches in over that little cover. This next cover here has two screws, and I believe they're different sizes if I recall correctly, so just be aware of that. And this is an example of how to lose screws, so don't do what I do. I'm using an old oiler just to gently lift the date disc up, and we'll go ahead and get these wheels out of the way. A little bit of Rodico. This little wheel has a chamfer on one side and it's more flat on the other side. And typically the flatter side is the one that faces upward and the chamfer side is the one that faces downward. And you can't assume how you found it is correct. This is the corrector for the date wheel. This little spring is, I'm just a little worried about, oh, just about got away from me. And there's the date wheel. Now we'll flip this over to the train work side. Should have released the power earlier, but at least I remember now. So we're just holding this click back as I unwind the power from the barrel here. Now we can remove the cock that holds down the pallet fork. Again, just very gentle tension to get that up. Now we can remove our pallet fork. Not very gracefully. And just a little quick check to see the wheels are turning okay. It's up. Yeah, okay, well, maybe a little grimy. It's still going, a bit stuttery. So now we'll go ahead and remove the screw for the crown wheel. It's reverse threaded. And now for the ratchet wheel. Now I probably should remove the barrel bridge first, but I'm going to go ahead and remove the bridge over the training wheels. They have to come out before the barrel can come out anyway. No, it's actually not very grimy in here. Maybe it's not grimy. I think what we have here is a case of heavy oiling. It is saturated. And we'll put off the training wheels before moving on to the barrel bridge. It's an interesting little sliding mechanism to get that wheel to rock back and forth. Now we'll remove the case clamps. Again, this is horrible watchmaking practice, not removing those screws. I'm feeling dangerous. Now we'll get to the barrel bridge. 3 screws. There we go. Here's that little sliding mechanism. Our sliding clutch pinion, winding pinion. And we'll loosen the setting lever. You can see it there. Dropped out the other side. And remove our setting lever screw and this last wheel. And we'll flip it back over to the calendar side or the keyless work side to remove this little stubborn man. That is tight. Worried I'm gonna break the screw. Just try to wiggle it back and forth a little bit. Wow, I really thought I was gonna shear that screw. This is just that, you know, one of those covers. It's a pretty typical design. It has a spring there and covers up the spring for the clutch. And there's the little spring for the clutch. Behaved pretty nicely. And we'll skip to the post-wash process. So I've run this through the wash already, and I'm inspecting these jewels. You can kind of see a little glimpse of what I use. I'm going to drop the balance back in here, and I'll put the balance on the main plate and a separate wash. It's just a very gentle 2-minute or less rinse in isopropyl alcohol. It's not looking terrific. Hopefully we'll see a little better result after we get the balance cleaned up. There was a lot of oil floating around in here, so there could be oil on the spring. But we'll see how it runs after we clean it up and get the jewels lubricated. Interestingly, I had a hard time fitting the balance back in here just for the wash. I was really worried about damaging it, and I finally got it lined up. So I don't know, maybe there's a problem with the staff. Maybe it's slightly bent. But onwards, we'll give it a short clean and see what happens next. I like to agitate the movement to get the balance swinging while I tighten. Because if it stops while I tighten, I know there's a problem. Well, maybe it's a little better. I've seen worse, but we'll see what happens. I'll put the pallet fork in there in the same rinse for, again, less than 2 minutes. And now we'll put a little braking grease on the inside of the barrel. Maybe you can see where I've put little dabs of grease on the sides there. Just help the spring grip a little bit. And off camera, I have reinstalled the automatic spring there, putting a little bit of oil on the spring and a little bit on the arbor. And pop the cap back on. Just checking the play here. Seems okay. And we'll start getting our train of wheels in here. Next, we'll go ahead and get our setting lever screw in there. This is pretty easy to forget. You have to put that in before you get the barrel bridge on. It may be a better practice to lubricate the stem at the end, but I find it helps with the assembly. The stem's going to come in and out multiple times before the end. Grease also helps keep the the sliding clutch pinion and the winding pinion here together, which I embarrassingly struggle with. Clearly I'll need to clean these tweezers off before doing anything else with them, but just get it started. Now I can get our sliding pinion in here. Next we'll grease these inside vertical sides of the sliding clutch pinion. It's more important to grease this vertical sides. While I remembered the setting lever screw, I forgot something else. I have forgotten that little sliding part under the barrel bridge. So I'm going to zip through where I've tightened everything down and proceed on and realize I made my error. So now you can put our little sliding piece on. I'm actually put a little dab of oil here to help hold this in place on the bottom of the barrel bridge. That should do it. And hopefully that tension, we'll just hold that on there while I get this back on. So yeah, mistakes are going to happen. And we'll fast forward through this bit here till we get caught up. Position this in the center here. And now we'll get our setting lever in place. A little bit of oil here. This will also help hold it onto the setting lever screw. Sometimes I'll use rotor to hold that down while I tighten this, but I find it really just more effective to just take it out of the movement holder and get it started, just holding it in place with my finger. Now we'll start getting our training wheels in place, starting with the escape wheel. It's a gentle tap to get that thing to dance in place. Slightly just nudge this around. Get our bridge place. Try and nudge it over the mounting points, and hopefully the pivots will line up, should we be so lucky. I can see that that escape wheel is not in place, so we'll manipulate things a little bit. A little nudge here, a little nudge there. I'm going to start these screws, not tighten, just get them started. Sometimes I find that helps get things lined up. And look at that. Looks like the wheels, it was in. It looked like it was in, and now it's not. So this is going to be a pain, which is fine. We're not in a hurry. But I'm going to spare you the pain of that 20 or 30 minutes of getting those wheels lined up. But it was just basically manipulating those pivots, gently rocking those wheels, a little tap here and there, and then just checking as I go before tightening these down fully, just so I know. We'll go and lubricate these pivots. Just very light oil. And it's okay. I've seen freer flowing. Go ahead and get our wheel over the barrel here. Hold this down with some just enough pressure to keep it from spinning while I tighten. I'm going to put a little oil here where I see some wear from that wheel. We need to get our click in place, which I left mounted during cleaning this time. And we'll get this reverse threaded screw in. Oh, that's weird. Oh yeah, it has that little sliding mechanism. I thought I had sheared the screw. It's looking a little healthier. Now we'll get our pallet fork in. Sometimes when I struggle to get that pivot set, I'll do a little tap like I do with the train of wheels and it'll fall in there. I take a similar approach when I tighten down the pallet fork cock as I do when I tighten down the balance cock. That I'll tighten, check, just to be extra careful that I'm not going to damage that pivot. And I'll check as I go that that pallet fork is swinging pretty loosely. If it requires any force at all, then the pivots are not set correctly. We'll put in a little wind here for some tension into the trainer wheels against that pallet fork. And we'll check it, and it snaps back and forth okay. And now we'll proceed to lubricating the face of those pallet fork drills. And basically you're just looking for a very thin film of special oil on the face of the pallet fork stones. Then we'll flick this back and forth with a different oiler, mind you. You advance the escape wheel about 5 teeth, re-lubricate, advance again, and you repeat until you get all the way around the escape wheel. I'm going to flip this back over to the MotionWorks side, and I'm going to put some grease on the point where the clutch mounts, and a little grease on the clutch. Get that set into the sliding pinion here. You can see how the setting lever engages with the stem. And now look at this little spring in here for the clutch. I've used different ways to hold down these springs. Rodico, pegwood, plastic sticks. I admit I'm being very tentative here, but I've had a run of bad luck, so I want to be very cautious. And the clutch popped up, so we need to get that back into the pinion there. Okay, now we can get this covered up, hopefully before anything pings off. What I'll typically do is get this screw started and then get that little spring onto that post on the setting lever and then finish tightening it down. Let's check operation here and put a little bit of grease where that contact is. And now I'm going to flip it back over to the trainer wheels side to get our balance in. I'm curious to see if I have as much trouble getting it in as when I did for the cleaning. Usually when it's that much trouble, it's a bent pivot, but it seemed to beat okay. Let's see if we can work this in. Come on, God, get in here. Nope. Not quite. Maybe. I'll get the screw in here and see if that helps. Often getting the screw tightened in will firm up the cock in place. That maybe didn't sound right. You know what I mean. And it will get the balance swinging better. This footage of me removing, cleaning, and lubricating the balance setting here was not particularly good, so I'm not going to linger on it too much. The focus is slightly out. I had a camera die on me, so I'm limited to one camera right now, but hopefully get a sense of the size of that drop of lubrication. Now I'm going to put the stone back into the setting and drop the setting back into the balance cock. And we'll close this up and we'll move over to the other side where hopefully the footage will be a little better. We'll open up this Inca block style shock setting spring. I use a sharpened pair of tweezers, very sharp on the ends, to open up those springs. Sometimes I'll use an old oiler. I'll clean these in a jar of isopropyl alcohol. I might have mentioned that before, but of course once it's dry. One important thing is to make sure that your drops of lubricant are as close as you can to being the same on each side of the pivots, be it a wheel or the balance. That helps keep the amplitude equal as you flip the movement over. So this time I'm going to put the chaton over the jewel here and then drop it into the shock assembly here. Nudge you back over that pivot here. And so watch here closely, because I don't know if I couldn't see properly the lighting or what, but I thought I had pushed that clip into place and I hadn't. So here's some footage from the future. After reviewing the footage, realizing that I had missed it, I opened the watch back up to get that spring set properly. So that's why you see it further along in assembly. But now we'll jump back to our previous state. We'll unscrew this jewel setting and clean it in an isopropyl bath, dry it off, and put a small drop of lubrication there. Get it back over the escape wheel pivot. Here's a little bit of a bonus. This watch doesn't use a traditional cannon pinion. It uses kind of a slipping pinion that goes into those 3 prongs in the center of this wheel, and over time that tension will become too loose. It's best to replace it, but I'm going to attempt to deform the metal right about here in this sort of crook to extend those prongs out to put a little more tension when I fit it back. This is kind of a hack, but if it works, I may end up doing a separate video on this. If that would interest you, let me know and I'll try and make that happen. I think ideally you would find which of these arms needs more tension, but I'm just going to go and hit all 3 of these with the lightest of taps, almost tapping with the goal of not doing anything. Because of another video issue, I have highlighted this part here, which is the date corrector. It's already mounted. I put a small drop of D5 there on that pivot. To the left of it, you can see the little spring there that will give some tension once the date wheel is installed. Sorry about that. I just wanted to point that out to avoid any confusion. And I'm just going to lubricate these posts here for these wheels and a little bit where the surfaces have some wear. Pretty much all with some D5. And now we'll get this wheel that we just tightened up to get that pinion to fit a little more snugly. Get our minute wheel and our intermediate pinion in there. And now this date wheel here that has the finger that will click over the date disc. And remember that this little piece here has 2 wheels attached to it, with a smaller one underneath. So this is our date corrector and the spring that puts tension against the date disc. Now I'm going to try and hold this spring and corrector back, pull it back with this oiler while I slip the date disc into the groove that it needs to slide into. And there you can see the date corrector is notched properly. I'm not following a technical guide, and I think I've gotten a little ahead of myself, so I've had to remove the hour wheel and the minute wheel, and I'm going to slide this little cover in between those 2 discs that are those 2 wheels that are attached. You can do it this way, but I'm going to show you, I think, the proper way to do it. Before putting the hour and minute wheel in, is already have that little double wheel assembly pre-fitted into this little cover, then drop the cover in, get it screwed down, then we can get our minute wheel and our hour wheel in place. Just make sure this is all set. Get our screw in for this. And look at this final little cover here that has 2 screws. They are different sizes. Now we're getting very close, and we'll loosen up our dial feet screws. Present our dial. I really like this minimalistic design. I've seen other Vulcains that looked very similar to this. Also have a centenary badge. This one doesn't have the centenary label on it. Just tightening down these dial feet screws again. I like to put the hands on using a little bit of Rodico to kind of guide it roughly in place, and then I'll soft set it and then hard set it with these little hand pushers. I'm really pretty stoked about this watch. Some people might find it too simple, but I like it. I'm also pretty excited to get this near completion because I have not been feeling well, and I struggled to get through this one. The second hand was pretty loose, so I tightened it up really very carefully with this pin vise. I probably haven't been as much of a conversationalist on this one because I haven't been feeling well, but I hope this has still been somewhat entertaining for you. I don't think I showed it, but I have dropped the movement into this case spring, and now we'll slide the case over it. The crystal's going to need a little work, but we'll get to that. And now just going to slide these case clamps in place, tighten them down. And measure for a gasket. Very, very close. Let's get a little oil here on the pivot for the rotor. Tab here on the winding works on these reversing wheels. Try and work that in a little bit. I don't know why, but sometimes it takes me forever to figure out exactly how these, I guess the automatic works bridge, where it drops in. I think it just might be me not feeling well, but this one wasn't too terrible to get in. But I'm just going to very cautiously tighten these screws. Sort of partially set them and check it as I go. And that seems okay. So we can go back and tighten these screws down further. That's not the freest movement, but I think it'll do. We'll close this up and turn our attention to the crystal, which looks salvageable. Does not look terrific now, but it does look perfectly salvageable. A little bit of elbow grease and some sandpaper. I'm going to clean up these edges first with some pegwood. It's pretty grimy. Then we'll get to the sandpaper. I usually start off with an 800 grit sandpaper, and I work my way up to 3000. Once we get this finished up with the 3000 grit sandpaper, I will transition over to the poly watch. And I like to start with polishing on the edges of the crystal and work my way in toward the center. I don't know, maybe it's like eating an Oreo or something. But I'll even do the inside on this one a little bit. It looks like it might be scuffed on the inside, but we'll get this into the ultrasonic cleaner with some distilled water. And once it's dried, we'll get this installed with the crystal press that you might see in the upper left-hand side of the frame. And here's the reveal. I think the crystal turned out pretty well. It's not perfect. There are some marks that I left because it was going to require a lot of material to be removed. Here's an early look at the time graph results before regulation. I'm going to let it run a day or two before I regulate it. The amplitude is a little low because I reused a mainspring. If it were someone else's watch, I might suggest they consider a new mainspring, but for conservation's sake, I think it's just fine, especially for a hobbyist's watch. I think the watch looks great. The case definitely has some patina to it. You know, if you look at it closely, it has some wear. It has a look of antiquity. There's enough shine to it. I think it looks good on the wrist. The dial looks pretty clean. I like those markers. Those markers are really cool. This honey-toned strap is the only spare strap that I have that'll fit this right now, but let me know if you have a suggestion. Well, everybody, I think that's going to do it for this video. I really do appreciate your comments, by the way. I've got some cool projects coming up, so I hope you'll join me for those. Until then, take care.